It's Spoilerin time. This is the time where we take all the hard work on our show, Cordkillers, where we figure out how to watch things, and then we watch them and talk about them here and spoil them because we really want to talk about them. This week, we're going to be spoiling Hannibal, Season 2, Episode 12, Jupiter's Legacy, Episodes 3 and 4, and the first 3 episodes of Hulu's M.O.D.O.K. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Man, that sounds like an awful lot of television that we had to watch this week. I hope it was good.
All these shows were on my television. I did not watch them actually I watched a little M.O.D.O.K. on my phone, but mostly on my television. Brian, let's start with M.O.D.O.K, shall we?
Yeah. M.O.D.O.K.
M.O.D.O.K, the first 3 episodes. If this be M.O.D.O.K, the M.O.D.O.K that time forgot, and beware what from Portal comes. This is a animated kind of claymation-y looking thing. Patton Oswalt is the force behind it and the voice of M.O.D.O.K. And it is a hilarious take on the Marvel universe, even including some depictions of Iron Man and stuff. Bryce seemed to like it. I seem to be okay with it. Brian,
Brian's making a face. He's been making a face for the past few minutes here.
Yeah. Before I give my thoughtful review, let me just say that you know what? What did you guys think?
I liked it. I thought the comedy worked, and I was worried that it wouldn't work because a lot of Marvel stuff, the comedy is ancillary or it's secondary or tertiary to the actual plot of the show. I thought these first 3 episodes that we watched did a good job of setting up a loser villain and making it feel not like he was completely doomed. And along the way, he's funny, not because he's like a nerdy loser or he's not like a superhero fan, not equating the two, but he's not like just a guy who likes Marvel stuff and also he kind of stinks. Like he does feel in that world, and also he's still got, all of his things. I thought that this was pretty good. I had a pretty good time watching this. Tom, how about you?
I laughed a few times out loud. There was some stuff that worked for me. There was a lot more stuff where I nodded and said inside my head, yes, that would be the funny joke to make there. Mm-hmm. And so I wonder if maybe I'm just too jaded, or I've seen this kind of approach already a couple of times and I don't love it enough to be like, doesn't matter if I've seen it before. I love this way of doing things. But it just didn't quite work as well as I wanted it to. I wanted to be, laughing it up and having a great time. And instead it was mildly amusing for me.
Here's my theory is that part of the reason we had such a good time in general watching Lower Decks is because Lower Decks played on 2 levels. It could play, if you had never heard of Star Trek, full stop, you would understand instantly these are space people in a low position punching up. And, every joke stood on its own. This was kind of the antithesis of that, where it's like every joke was, M.O.D.O.K, doesn't he look dumb? Well, yes, he does, but also, and this is, I'll be fast to admit, maybe this is me. He's also one of the very few characters in the Marvel universe that has a control cube. Like he's a player like straight up against Galactus and so on. Like this is a god. This is Molecule Man. This is the Beyonder. This is a top player. And they just the joke is he is a piece of garbage. And I could work with that if even if I don't like him, let me respect him. If I don't respect him, let me like him. But if you're going to not let me like him or respect him or find any of his decisions smart or good, or if you're going to reduce AIM, which within the comics, and again, I'm sorry, this is me bringing my stuff to it, within the comics, AIM and Hydra about equals. Let's just make one a clown organization. You can overcome all of those things if you have multi-layered writing that makes me respect it. And the closest it got to it was like near the beginning of episode 3, where M.O.D.O.K is taking lessons in passive aggression from his daughter.
Yes, that was from his daughter.
That was about as good as it got. Everything else,
I love that part.
I hated with the Fire of 1,000 Suns.
In fact, it's that part where they go on the family trip, and the trope of the people getting divorced, but they still kind of get along, is working. That's working okay for me. I like the idea that they're like, yeah, let's take an amazingly evil person in his organization and make them a joke. I'm okay with that. I'll get to the whole tech acquisition thing in a minute. But I was like, oh, okay, that's the payoff for making this so absurd, is we get to have like a real family moment with M.O.D.O.K where he learns something. And they verged right on me really liking it. Even to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, of course he's going to screw up and open the portal without her. And then the lesson he'll learn, and they didn't do anything.
Yeah. Also, wouldn't have killed me to find out like, hey, I like a bad guy who I almost agree with, but then at the last minute, I'm like, whoa, no, you can't do that. Like, seduce me, man. Show me M.O.D.O.K's utopia. Like, get me all the way in. But instead, just none of that.
I think I'm being unfair when I say they didn't do anything, because they did at the end have him read his daughter and understand, oh, she wants my approval, but hates that about herself. And I guess I could use that. It just felt pasted on. Like I think I would have liked a deeper lesson there. And that's where the multi-layered writing comes in. But I don't think this is wanting to be multi-layered. It's supposed to be like a shallow throwaway laugh a minute romp, and that's where it's failing for me. I don't mind that it's one dimensional if it's funnier, but some of the jokes feel obvious, and that's where I'll circle back around to the tech stuff. Like the obvious joke is that AIM gets acquired by a big evil tech company that might be Google or Amazon. It doesn't matter, and there's a tech bro running it. Period. That's it. They did the obvious joke. Like I need something more. I need it to be like, but
you didn't think that they plussed on that concept? I mean, just the fact that like I kind of thought it was interesting that the guy who runs AIM like is kind of tech bro-y and also isn't just like a slave driver. Like I was surprised that plotline, like that the company, the AIM got bought, and then it was like kind of an okay person. Like it wasn't, I don't know. I thought there was, I don't know. I am seeing this a lot as a cartoon, a like story of the week cartoon. And so I'm hearing all of the opinions, and I'm very silently thinking to myself, well, but Bugs Bunny doesn't have to care about that. Right. And this feels Bugs Bunny.
And you're absolutely right. And that's where I was going with the, like, it can be one dimensional if it keeps me laughing. Mm-hmm. It just hasn't been keeping me laughing.
Well, and also
maybe if I watched the right television programs, YouTube videos, and used Facebook, I'd find this hilarious. But I think probably it's an occupational hazard. And the problem is with me that I cover technology in the way I do. And that's a huge premise as part of this is if you buy the technology narrative of X, then this is hilarious. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't buy that narrative. So
there are two moves they could make that would make this infinitely more interesting to me. Number one is make me fear M.O.D.O.K for even 1 second, but they refuse to do that. Make me respect M.O.D.O.K's motives for even 1 second, but they refuse to do that. And where I'm left with is just the most dog crap piece of dog crap, and that I just pity the entire time.
Because he's a bad guy. He's a villain. Like, I think that's the one Marvel like through line of all of this is like, he's a villain, so there will be no bottom to this crevice. He will never walk away from this looking respectable,
But the best
they
villains,
should make him more evil then, maybe? I don't know. Because I'm feeling some dissonance of like, they're setting me up like he's got a nice wife and decent kids and like maybe he's not a bad guy after all, but then I'm not getting any of that either.
The best villains are the ones that you're like 90% like, yeah. And then they get to the end and you're like, whoa, no, not at all. And we're not being given that. And there's not multiple layers to it. Yeah, I don't know. It weirdly feels like here is a character that is so powerful.
You have a lot of reverence for M.O.D.O.K that I was not aware of and certainly do not share. So I feel like that is a lot of this. Because I agree. It's cool to hear that he is like that strong in the comics, which I don't read, and he should be as strong as all these other people who are not on the movies that they haven't made yet. And so I don't have, it's not a barrier, I guess. That like I feel like that's there's not in a bad way, but I think that's
let's put a pin in that and set it aside.
Okay.
Even if this guy was a janitor, like I don't want to see a janitor get beat up episode after episode after episode. Like can't he have a win? Can I believe in something that he's doing?
Even if he's even as a janitor, if he's paid to make the floors wet so people fall and break their back, he's a super villain. He is a super villain.
And also he does get a win at the end of episode 3.
With what?
With his daughter. By understanding his daughter. And it's not a big win. And I don't think it was enough to really satisfy me.
She doesn't perceive that. I mean, it's like I want desperately to be on his side for literally anything. And failing that, I want to be against his side and be happy that he's suffering. And somehow this show denies me of both. Like
I'll just say, and I think that's fine. I'm not really familiar with the M.O.D.O.K character either. So it's going to change my perspective on it. I just want it to be funnier. I'm just not laughing very much with it.
I'd probably agree with that more than anything. Like I was surprised how funny it was. I don't think it was uproariously funny, but I did like it, and I thought it was an easy watch, which is not easy to say if it is remarkably unfunny.
Can I very gingerly push this out here? And if now is not the right time, knowing that Patton Oswalt lost somebody very important to him makes this whole divorce thing not very funny to me. And maybe
I hadn't brought anything out from outside into it.
That's
a
Brian thing.
Really know that.
Yeah, no, I believe his wife died, and I'm just not feeling the hilarity of.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Gotcha. All right. That is M.O.D.O.K episodes 1 through 3. Next week, we will finish up talking about M.O.D.O.K. Let's talk about Jupiter's Legacy, episodes 3 and 4, Painting the Clouds with Sunshine, and All the Devils Are Here. I'm okay. I'll keep going. I really do like the flashback stuff. The Painting the Clouds with Sunshine bit with the song, and the fall of the guy who is, losing everything and having to lay people off. That was all interesting. All the Devils Are Here, looking for the big mound of clay out in Wyoming where the aliens, the windmill in Kansas, based on a drawing. That was fun. I enjoyed that. Again, maybe it's because I like period pieces. I don't know, but I liked all that. The other parts of each one of these episodes, which was, the kids, not really kids, the 20-somethings in the van trying to steal the thing so that they can satisfy their crime boss. And then they run into Chloe at the end, followed by the other part of that story, and All the Devils Are Here, where we follow Chloe around in her life, was just okay for me.
Yeah, I'm still in. But who boy, if nothing from the current age, like, it's like current times is filled with all the people who I like and respect the least. Past times is filled with all the people I like and respect the most. Why does half of this television show fill itself with a time period and a group of people I don't like very much? Don't know. Hope it pays off.
It's probably because Brian and I grew up in the 1920s. Bryce, you're younger. What did you think of it?
I did not watch these 2 episodes, but I am
Oh, okay.
most of the way through like episode 2, and the flashback stuff is interesting. I don't think I'm in far enough for it to have enough stuff have happened in the flashbacks.
No, it
But
comes late.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's interesting doing a superhero version of This Is Us, but I also am not seeing how these 2 different timelines are intersecting yet, and it's strange. I mentioned this on the Weird Things podcast. The energy of this show is very, very strange. It is very like Shonda Rhimes inspired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Compared
maybe
to
that's it.
superhero stuff.
Because the current time storylines in each of these definitely felt like, okay, this is an episode where you meet these folks. Okay, this is an episode you've met Chloe, but let's go deep on Chloe and what's behind her. And in both cases, when I met the 20 somethings in the van, I was like, okay, this is a heist story. And maybe I just need to wait to find out where it connects, but I didn't quite understand exactly where it's connecting other than with Chloe, literally. And then when we get the Chloe story, it's like, oh, the reason she was there is because she's mad. And that pretty much explains all of Chloe's storyline, is that she's mad. And I mean, I got a lot more clues about why she's mad, and there's no end of reasons why she's mad, but I'm not sure I quite understand really why she's so mad. And that's probably waiting to be revealed too.
Okay. I don't care. 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 I watched 2 of these in a row. And normally, what's great about the 1920s stuff is that it's grounded and concrete and it's the beginning of something. Instead, they took that away from us. They made it ungrounded. They made it insane. They made it a crazy man walking around in a room by himself. Okay, fine. You've undone the one good thing about the 1920s, 1930s. Great. So now let's go to the current time. Current time, you have grounded adults who are dealing with kids. Great. And kids who are crazy. So let's take out the adults, and now we have kids who are ungrounded and crazy and who literally find a briefcase filled with rainbow dust and decide it must be magic cocaine and just go nuts. And it's like, well, clearly there'll be some consequences or literally anything interesting will happen. And then none of that, just none of that. They did a bunch of cocaine rainbow dust. I was not a fan.
All right. So that's where we are with Jupiter's Landing. We will watch 2 more episodes for next week, Cover Her Face and Omnes Pro Uno. And we're halfway through at this point. Let's talk about Hannibal. We're talking about season 2 and specifically about episode 12, which is Tome Wan. This episode's kind of all over the place for the penultimate episode. We get Verger put on psychedelics, and Hannibal convinces him to cut off his own face. We get a lot of Lecter and Graham admitting things to each other as a manipulative chess game. Verger's neck gets broken by Lecter, but didn't kill him, left him paralyzed. And now he's bedridden and in Margot's care. None of this seemed to be particularly crucial to the overall story arc. I don't know. Brian, what did you think of this one?
None of this felt to me particularly like the show Hannibal.
Really?
Yeah. Because normally when I think of Hannibal, I don't think of cartoonish, over the topness, and this is one of those that I went back and watched twice just to make sure it's like was I crazy? And it's like, no, it's just silly. It's a very silly. It was a silly episode. I didn't like it.
I didn't think it was silly. It was over the top with the face cutting, for sure, and some of the other pig related violence. But we did have a thread through here, which is what I think this season is about, which is Graham trying to manipulate Hannibal while Hannibal tries to manipulate Graham, and both of them knowing that the other is trying to do that and who's going to win. And so in the end, we get Graham telling Lecter, you should just tell Jack what's up, talk to Crawford. So I was very Hannibal by the end. I admit that it was a bit windy, a bit meandering in some ways.
And I did like that. I appreciated what they were going for, where it's like, let's just flat out spell it out for all the normies. This is what we're doing. We're doing this thing. It's a chess match, and all the players, Will's secretly a good guy, all this stuff. Jack, and Will are going to have a conversation where they remind each other that they're doing fishing, trying to capture Hannibal Lecter or whatever.
I know. I love that Bryce had reminded us of that last week. And then I'm like, this is everything Bryce was telling me.
and to be honest, that was a special moment for me when Bryce caught it. And too. This is the part where they had to say it out loud. And I'm like, well,
they even put in the recap this episode, which they had not done in episodes past. So
right.
I think
to remind
this
you.
was meant to kind of be the reveal of that. I thought this was...
And then we also got Gillian Anderson back. Dr. DeMaria.
That was probably the most interesting part. Everything else felt like gross for the sake of being gross. It's like, what's a thing we can do? Well, normally we have bodies that are desecrated. What if we had a living person being desecrated?
Doing it to himself. I mean, it was a little over the top. I'm not going to argue with you there, Brian. But it was trying to show that's what Hannibal does, right? He can trick Verger into cutting his own face. He had to use psychedelics to do it, but he got him in a position where he could make him use psychedelics. And that literally is what DeMaria was warning them. Like, if you think you're winning, that's what he wants you to think. And so I think that was meant as a demonstration, like a very, graphic demonstration of what happens when you overestimate yourself against Hannibal.
And, at the end of this episode, we are completely in the wind. Like, Hannibal, we saw, it looked like it was the henchman that was in, it was the henchman who had gotten eaten by the pigs. Mm-hmm. We saw the brother who, fed his own face and had his neck snapped. But now Hannibal's in the wind. The brother's not dead. He's teamed up with his sister, the two of them who hate each other. And either she's going to, punish the brother, now they're going to team up.
Margot is the only winner in this episode, right? Is like she finally gets the upper hand on her brother.
And I also think that I think what contributes to this episode feeling different from the rest of them is this is episode 2 or so of Will and Hannibal are in a relationship, and they have a fight in this episode. They have a full on fight about Hannibal's suspicions of is he actually a killer? Is he still working with the FBI? It was very interesting how the subtext was so loud of Hannibal knows you're working with the FBI, and still he's eating with Jack and meeting with with Will. It's different, but that's because we're in a new land. We're in the world of the serial killer.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I'm good.
No, it's fine. I mean, you don't have. No. This is not to persuade you.
Understand, it's your fault. It's your fault because you, both of you, the last 2 episodes, Tom ruined 2 episodes ago by introducing the idea that it's well, what if? And I was like, oh my God, he's right. And then and you ruined last week's episode. And I'm like, yes, of course, he's right. So I'm now 2 episodes where there were no surprises for me in this episode.
Well, I have no idea what's happening next episode, Brian. So does that help?
I don't believe you.
Yeah, I mean, we can.
MODOK's going to show up. It's going to be amazing.
But like, I think that's what's great going into next episode is either the brother and sister are going to be wrapped up in 60 minutes, or they are going to be like the plot of season 3. They're either like about to be snuffed out by Hannibal and or Will or the FBI, or there is about to be war on the show called Hannibal, and it will be between these 3 factions.
Yeah, Margot is a pawn in play. She might be irrelevant to the fight. She might get captured. She might checkmate. Like anything could happen with her, and it's a game between Will and Hannibal, and I guess Jack Crawford is, you know, a bishop or a knight or a more powerful piece, but he is also just a piece in this battle.
Oh, I was going to theorize a thing, and now I'm not going to, because I don't want to potentially spoil what
you don't want to be right.
I don't want to be right. But
I want to hear it.
Jack says something very interesting when he and Will are talking, and Will saying, "I'm going to arrest him right before he does any bad crimes," which he also definitely doesn't get a chance to do.
Yeah.
But Jack saying, Will says, you know, I'm going to arrest him, and you're going to have 2 witnesses right there. And Jack saying, I might have 3. And I wonder who that third person is, because he says that right before Jillian comes back.
Right.
But
the implication is sort of that it's going to be Dr. du Maurier somehow, but I don't see how that would work.
Yeah, I don't see how that would work either. I think that's a red herring. I think I think I got
Unless
another player.
It's meant to be like Dr. du Maurier has witnessed Hannibal doing something in the past, but then in the interview she's like, yeah, he never actually did anything, he just convinced me to do it.
I mean,
so he's clean.
If you're going to do a switcheroo, it seems to me like the third person would be another personality that is in the room or whatever.
Well, and
Alana,
also we definitely just this episode firmly Dr. du Maurier is a separate person.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. But maybe she, whatever. Somebody has multiple personalities. That's got to come out.
All right. Any other thoughts on Hannibal?
No.
Digging it. I'm excited for next week.
Yes.
That is Hannibal season 2, episode 12. And next week we will watch episode 13, the season finale of season 2. So once again, next week, Marvel's M.O.D.O.K 104 through 110, Jupiter's Legacy 105, 106, and Hannibal 213. If you want to keep these episodes coming, it only costs you a couple bucks. Just go on over, not even a couple, really, just $1 over at Cordkillers on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Cordkillers. You support this show and Cordkillers. You get these episodes early. And you make it all possible. You're our boss. So go do it. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll talk to you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.